Michael and I were buying some properties. We bought a lot of properties together for years. We don't do that anymore. No. And here's why. We were buying some properties in the U.S. and we were buying them in Cleveland, and we had a really good line on a couple properties that were going up for auction. And I was like, okay, Michael, you got this. I was working a shift, and he's like, yeah, I got this. I'm like, okay, we want those 2 properties. Yes. And then he calls me, he's like, oh my gosh, he goes, this is crazy. He goes, we had a representative at this auction, and it was like a room like this, and everything goes up for auction, except nobody showed up except for our property manager, hundreds of empty seats. This is back in like 2009 when the market was terrible. And back and forth, Michael's like, okay. I'm like, what? He's like, oh, he said, they are not gonna sell us the properties because they're not gonna meet the minimums. I'm like, I'm like, what are the minimums? They're like, $300,000. I'm like, these houses are only worth 75 grand each. We're not gonna pay 300 grand for 2 houses. And I'm like, how many houses are there? And he's like, 33. I'm like, what if we offer 300 grand for all 33? And he's like, and then Michael's on the phone, he's like, that might work, I'll get it figured out. So what happens is we bought 33 houses for $300,000, which was wild, wild. I was like, okay, game on. This is great. Now we got to sort through all of this, right? We're figuring it out. Some of them were in really rough shape. Oh my gosh. And it got down to like the last 2 or 3. We couldn't get the property manager couldn't find tenants, couldn't find the addresses. The city was like not calling us back. So we got in the car and we drove to Cleveland, and we got there and I'm like, okay, so like, house 1272. I'm like, we're on the right street, which was a scary street to begin with in Cleveland. And we're like, okay, 1270, 1274. I'm like, stop, back up. I'm like we missed it. He's like, well, you didn't miss it. These houses, 1270 and 1274 are beside each other. I'm like, you bought a house that doesn't exist. He bought a house that doesn't exist.
One day we'll laugh at it, right?
And I was like, didn't you see a picture? He's like, I don't remember. It was all happening so fast. It's like, oh my God. So I've bought a house that doesn't exist, if you think you've done bad in real estate. That was pretty shocking. But we were, rushing into it. We got excited. We thought this was too good to walk away from. You got to do it. And literally 90% of those homes were more work than it was worth. We were fixing them all up. We were trying to tenant them. We even went to some of the doors, and it was like out of a movie. Like, walking up to these homes, I was like, we might die.
Yeah.
We might die. The whole neighborhood's looking at these 2 Canadians. We're like, hey, how's everybody doing here?
There's guys bench pressing on the front lawn.
No one had a shirt on. And we're like, so we own the house. They're like, no, you don't. I'm like, okay then, it's yours. See you later. That was a lesson.
We rented a convertible because that's the thing to do. We roll up in this convertible.
In the dodgy neighborhood.
Get out.
Yeah.
Oh, it's our house. They're like, no, it's
so you bought 32 houses for $300,000.
Yeah, we bought 32 houses and an address.
And an address.
On that day. But some of them are funny, and we got, like I said, you have to be resilient with these properties, because we could have just called it a day and been out 300 grand, which would have been pretty hard at that time in our career. But we worked on it for years. We really did, and we never gave up. And we kept, renovating them and finding new contractors, and then someone come and steal all the copper out of the house, and then it was like one thing after another. But at the end of the day, we probably got out of there with $600,000 after 2 years of doing more work than you could have ever imagined. I'm still not saying it was worth it, but it was either take a loss or work our butts off double time to make something out of this, which we ended up doing, and it turned into a good deed. We found a contractor who was a really nice guy, helped us with so many of the properties, just kept going through the pain of like, there was a squatter, and I got them out, and I fixed it up. So when it got to the last house, he was renting, and he was like, I really like this last house. He's like, maybe I'll rent it from you. And Michael and I said, guess what? We're going to mail you the keys. The house is yours. You can have it.
Yeah, it was cool.
So.
Yeah, that was a good guy.